Why do some smart people keep making the same dumb mistakes? To answer this question, you must understand the difference between IQ and EQ. IQ is a measure of intelligence, and for our purposes, I define IQ as the ability to learn and solve problems effectively. For example, high IQ would help you learn and use a new computer program efficiently, whereas low IQ might prevent you from doing so. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, has been defined in many ways. For our purposes, I define EQ as the ability to process painful emotions in healthy and effective ways. For example, high EQ might enable you to cope with the pain of losing a job by talking with trusted friends or family, practicing self-care skills, allowing yourself to grieve the loss of the job, and employing problem-solving skills for finding a new job. Low EQ, on the other hand, might cause you to deal with your pain by drinking or drugging, self-cutting, catastrophizing, beating up on yourself, or falling into hopelessness. Thus, EQ is about one's ability to process painful emotions, whereas IQ is about one's ability to learn and solve problems. Now to answer the question, why do some smart people keep making the same dumb mistakes? Well, it's because their low EQ has turned their high IQ into a slave. Now let's see how that happens. By definition, low EQ means that one uses ineffective strategies for dealing with emotional pain. But why would someone continue using these strategies if they don't work? Because low EQ strategies such as drinking, overeating, or avoidance often do ease pain in the short run. But in the long run, they increase pain. For example, John deals with the stress of his job by getting drunk every night, which certainly numbs his pain, but over time it also alienates his wife and children and negatively impacts his work attendance and job performance. The key point is this: for a high IQ person with low EQ like John, if the emotional need for immediate relief from emotional pain becomes great enough, then John's high IQ becomes the slave to his low EQ's needs by rationalizing that the drinking helps while denying any negative consequences from it. It is well known that many intelligent people become addicted to drugs, gambling, porn, and other compulsive behaviors, and their low EQ explains why. Because even though their addiction is destroying them, their hijacked IQ uses denial to convince them they're doing just fine. Addiction is an extreme example of an emotional need overriding high IQ. So let's look at a more subtle example. Everyone knew Bob was a smart guy, but he came from a difficult childhood. His father abandoned the family when he was 6, and then his mother used alcohol to cope and was often irritable and critical of Bob, which caused him much pain. So he adapted to this abusive environment by never admitting to making a mistake in order to avoid the pain of his mother's wrath. Over time, this rule became subconscious and automatic, something he followed in every situation where he might be criticized. Of course, never admitting a mistake is a low EQ strategy. It spared Bob some pain in the short run, but in the long run, it caused more problems. Whenever he received poor grades, he blamed the teachers. Whenever he made mistakes at work, he blamed his boss. Whenever he treated his wife poorly, he blamed her. Bob's emotional need to never admit being wrong overruled his high IQ, so he was incapable of learning from his mistakes and thus became doomed to making the same mistakes over and over. Here is the key point. We all make mistakes, which is not a problem. That's how we learn. But if you are a smart person who has a pattern of making the same mistake over and over, then there is an emotional need that is preventing your high IQ from learning from those mistakes. If you would like help in correcting a pattern of making the same mistakes repeatedly, then visit my website, Serenity Online Therapy, where you can read more about me and the services I provide. If you found this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button. And if you want to hear more from me, then subscribe to my channel, Counselor Carl. I will be publishing a new video every other weekend. And finally, keep paying attention to your life. Until next time.